This is a long time coming, 11 years to be exact. I've been dishonest, not in the way you think when you think about me telling the start of my relationship, though I was accused of a lot of dishonesty. So trust that we're about to peel back some layers. Hey, I'm Steph Rubio, your go to for no nonsense chit chat on growing a business and life that you actually love. Around here, we're rooted in who we are, even if we're still learning to love her, getting clear on where we want to go, and we're relentless in our pursuit to get there. We're clawing our way out of survival mode and learning to bet on ourselves. We get into the nitty gritty of growth in life and in business, money, identity, boundaries, healing, leadership, parenting, partners, and all the messy bits in between. If you're ready to grow on your own terms, laugh a lot, possibly cry a little, maybe laugh until we cry if we're lucky, then hit subscribe and let's get into it. This is Rooted and Relentless. Grab your notepad and hold on to your tits. This one's for you. All right. I'm probably going to regret wearing swishy pants by the end of this, but here we are. If you hear them 1,000 times because I don't take the time to edit them out, hang with me, will you? I've been dishonest because we're about to hit the 10th episode of my podcast. And when I launched this, I made a promise to myself and my community and on this podcast that this was going to be a mix of business, life, parenting, partnerships, all areas of business, all of it. But here we are. I've spent week after week after week talking about business. Now, I am proud of that. I love it. I love what I do. I love business. I love understanding how things work, why they work, what's the point, how to make them better. I solution immediately. It can be a problem in relationships. Trust me, I want to always fix everything, but it serves me well. I make money and I have fun doing it. So I'm totally okay talking about business like all the time. But this week on September 16th, the day that this goes live, my husband and I, my current husband, have been married 8 years. We got married in 2017 in Pensacola, Florida, right after we moved here. We got engaged in 2016. We got together in 2014. This is the story I've yet to tell anyone, except for obviously those people who lived it with me, my current husband, and the people who had a lot to say about my decisions. Otherwise, I've been mum's the word. In 2014, I divorced my ex-husband, my now ex-husband. He was obviously not an ex, and the father of my child. And I also met and started seeing my current husband. And that was in a very small town in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. So you can imagine how the tails started wagging and the mouth started flopping and the narrative that was spun for years to help others who were actually really harmful in the entire situation. Now, I need to preface this with the fact that I am big on transparency. I think that you being uniquely and authentically you right now in the online space in your business, that's what's connecting people to you and that's what's going to help you sell. I promise to tell my story with 100% honesty, but there's a level of transparency I will never be able to reach, at least for a long time, because me and my ex-husband share a kid, my son, Cooper. And I will always be very mindful of how I talk about certain situations. So understand that there are things I will never be able to share. I'll have to separate fact from opinion. That way I don't have my son being harmed as a byproduct when he can grow up and listen to something about, his family dynamic that came up online. So I'm going to be very careful, but it is worth knowing. Me and his dad were together for a very short period of time in our early 20s, and it was a train wreck. I think we would both agree on that. And we didn't get along until last year. It's still a very tentative relationship. And if you didn't hear me say that we split in 2014, that is 10 years. That's a long time. That's most of my child's life, who's now 12. So it's been a long road, and it's not even out of respect for him, because there are times where I struggle with that I will share in the way that I do, but it is out of an unending love for my kid and just what I refuse to do. I'm not going to let him get caught up in what I share, but I am going to share my story, and I'm going to share honestly and for real for the first time in 11 years. Like I said, people have talked, people have accused, people have shared falsities, and I'm going to share it exactly as it happened. And it's important for me to also say that I don't give a fuck what people think about me, okay? I'm not explaining anything away. That is very important for you to know. I'm not explaining anything away, and I'm not giving excuses. I am stating facts about what happened, and I am excited to share it. Like, we've been together 8 years. For someone who never had a relationship longer than like a year, and me and even Cooper's dad, we were together like a total of 3, I think. So very short. I just didn't think love was in the cards for me for more than a couple of years. And I quit worrying about that at some point. I just started being myself after me and Cooper's dad split. And that relentless pursuit led me right into the arms of my current husband very, very, very early. So the story is that I cheated on my ex-husband with my current husband, and this is what happens. And you can draw your own conclusions because again, I don't give a fuck. I can give you the exact dates we split. It was a month apart. It was a month from me leaving the final time because we had separated several times before, leaving him and moving out. And here's the fun part of the story. I'm going to peel all this back, and I just love it because I'm being true to me, and I know what happened. I was there, and so does he, right? He was there too. So about a month later, I'm going to look up the dates here in a second. We were there at my sister and brother-in-law's house for a football game. I remember the game. That's how I can find the date. It was the Florida State Miami game in 2014 in November something. I always want to say the 15th, but that's not exactly true. I think it was a little bit earlier than that. So we were at a football game and we were playing lots of drinking games and having a lot of fun. And we hung out late that night after everyone went to bed. And that's the moral of the story that I'll put online, if you know what I mean. So from there, I got up the next day. I went to work. I worked at K Jewelers at that time, a little part-time crap job, freshly single, moved into a trailer. Part of the story is on my previous episode. I can drop that in the show notes. But just like how I lived at that time, single with my kid, because I moved out from his dad October, the weekend of my birthday. So I can even find those dates. So my birthday is October 18th. I want to say it was 19th because I think my birthday was on a Friday. October 19th, I moved all of my shit out. He was on duty in the military. I had had the final straw. Again, I won't get into why, but it wasn't the first time, but it was the last time for sure. And I knew that in my heart. So we were done. I moved out into a trailer that was around the corner from where me and him lived, around the corner from my parents, and me and Cooper officially lived alone. And then we immediately started splitting like custody. I filed for divorce and we immediately started sharing though. We didn't wait on all this to be finalized. I didn't wait, excuse me, not we, I didn't, to do the right thing. What are the dates? So October 18th, all the way back to 2014. My birthday was on a Saturday. So maybe it was still like maybe Saturday that happened. 19th, I still moved out Sunday, whatever. 18th, the weekend of October 18th, faux show. Now let's see. When did FSU play? This is funny, right? Well, here's the thing. My husband is a big FSU fan, and Miami is their huge rival. If you know anything about football, I'm a Georgia fan. Florida is our big rival, always has been. Huge, 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 big old game every year. That's them, Florida State, Miami. So I remember it being that game because it was just a big deal. I didn't know that until then because, again, Georgia fan, I didn't care. November 15th. Oh, I was right. Dang, girl. So I've talked about this several times, right? So November 15th. That's when we became more than friends, okay? After hanging out at the football game and celebrating their win. I'm not going to get into the football part of this. Stay focused, Stephanie. So yeah, a month later. Now, we can peel back the layers of this, which I'm happy to do because I love logic here, right? And this, again, I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you what feels good to me. And at this point in time, it doesn't make a damn difference anyway. I'm happily married way, way, way later. We always talk about the beginning of our relationship, right? We're like, how'd you guys meet? And things like that. And our story is really funny. Like we met at my brother and sister-in-law's house. But here's the thing. It's funny because in the beginning, people were trying to get to my now husband too about me being unfaithful. And it's just hilarious because he knew better than anyone that I was faithful, right? I knew him before because he was mutual friends with my brother-in-law and my sister. I had a new baby. He knew me when I was like, maybe when I was pregnant, but had Cooper and I'd go visit my sister and friends would be over there always watching football and hanging out over there. And I never blinked at him sideways twice, like not at all. I was just a loyal freaking person, whether that was harmful to me or not. So never looked sideways at him until after I split from my husband. I never had to explain myself to him. Not that I would have, because I would never be entering another relationship where I had to explain anything about me, baby. It was going to be me and me alone, putting myself first and not a soul trying to change anything about me. So if you need to know anything about me and my husband and our relationship, that tells you right there, the only way we could ever be together for over 10 years now and married for 8 is him doing just that, letting me be exactly who I am any time of day and night and not trying to change that and not trying to criticize that. He's an angel. He really is an angel. So that's the beginnings of our story, but there's more that plays into it. We were hanging out, and the funny thing is, like, family likes to give the talk. Don't you hurt her? Don't you do this? My sister gave me the talk about him. A couple weeks in, we were still seeing each other, and she was like, had the talk with me. Like, he's a really good guy, and, you shouldn't be on a warpath with him, your post-breakup warpath. He deserves someone who cares for him and all that. And I was like, wait, aren't you supposed to be telling him that about me? Like, I'm your sister. But it was just a real wake-up moment. She knew I was not in a good place. I was on the path to being in a good place because I was like, burn it all down. This is it. Like, done. But I was going through hell. I was not in a good place. So she had the talk with me, and it was a slap in the face. I do not want a relationship. I am not mentally stable enough, but I am not going to let him go. So I chose to be completely honest with him at all times. He saw every text message that my ex-husband sent me. He saw everything that was said. He saw how how I showed up all the time, good, bad, and ugly. I never hid anything from him. And I knew I would not hurt him. I didn't have it in me to hurt him, but I didn't have it in me to give a lot. Like, it wasn't a selfish hold on because I was transparent, but I just knew that she was right. He was a good dude and I was going to keep seeing him regardless of what that meant. And even though I wasn't ready to do that, but I think we were together like a year and a half before we moved in together. And then a year later got engaged. And so it went kind of slow after that, but it didn't start out slow. And it definitely started way too soon after me being in a place where I was ready for anyone. But he just came along on my healing journey, essentially. And it took years. Like, so let's talk about some of the myth and how you could weave whatever you want to be true. We didn't get divorced, me and my husband. It wasn't finalized on paper until January 27th, 2015, I think it was. Just told you that me and my husband started being more than friends on November 15th, 2014. So if my divorce wasn't finalized, I was technically still married. Yes, that is absolutely true. I wasn't anything to my ex-husband in October 19th, 2014. So that doesn't bother me. You know, there are people that are like, you are married in the eyes of God. Because again, I come from the Bible Belt. First off, I don't believe what you believe. So don't shove that down my throat. Second, I promise you, it was not God who married us. It was a woman in a courthouse in Brunswick, Georgia. And it was a different woman in a different courthouse in Ludowici, Georgia, where I grew up, that helped me file the paperwork to divorce. So it was most certainly humans that joined us together, and trauma that neither of us ever healed at that point in our early 20s. So trauma and someone who was like a judge or something and was able to legally marry people, that's who brought us together. And we never should have been married. I believe this now. Marriage is a piece of paper. Okay. Partnership is different. Me and my husband now have a partnership. But still, whether we had a piece of paper saying we were married or not, and had someone legally bind us or didn't, or had a show for it or didn't, was not the breaking point for me. I was done in my head and my heart. And I separated myself from him physically by moving to a different location. And I quit giving him my body and my heart and my mind at that point. So to me, no, I never cheated. But if people think differently because we were still married, like I said, I don't give a fuck. That's how I met my husband. The one person to this day who has never left me or neglected me. And I mean one person, the only person. Okay. And I'm working through all of that still and what that means, like what it means for him. He's a saint. I'll tell you right now, my expert opinion 10 years in on a successful relationship. Now, there's people that have been married for 50 or 60 and they can give us their advice too. That's fine. A lot of people say don't go to bed angry. I say let me sleep on it because I wake up feeling like that was dumb. We just didn't freaking argue. I think the first time was over beer pong. We were partners and we were arguing, but it was like, that's not an argument to me. We were going back and forth. And to this day, we disagree and we get heated, but anything that I would even consider an argument where we aren't within a couple hours, like coming back and discussing it. What has made our relationship successful above anything else is respect. I've learned that you have to have respect. That's love for another person. Okay. Your love is in your respect, or if you love someone, you respect them. So even from that first conversation with my sister all the way till now, I struggle with hurting him. You know, I'll get sassy and I'll get bitey and I'll get frustrated, and like, women have hormones and we go through cycles and that changes based on different times of the month. And I'll recognize that. I acknowledge that we communicate. We have communication, which I've never had with anyone. Communicating was not modeled to me. It was not modeled with me, nada. So I've had to learn all this on my own. And there are things that are easier for me to communicate than not. But I learned to communicate my needs and come to the table and have discussions when we don't agree on things or we may feel differently. And, you know, one of the best examples I give that I learned early on what compromise means in a relationship, when we got together, I didn't hang towels up to dry. I put them in a clothes basket when I was done with them to wash them. He's like, you can't do that. They're still wet. Like, that's disgusting. And I'm like, first off, excuse you. I'm 27 years old and I've lived on my own X number of years. I can handle my towels. I don't need you to tell me what to do. But that was a little selfish. We were together now, and I realized it was really important to him. I actually didn't give a crap if I hung it up or put it in the laundry basket. Like, and it kind of made sense. Okay, cool. That was our first compromise, and it sticks with me because, again, it was a disagreement, but it was always respectful. And it was just, I don't care as much as you care, so let's do it that way. We've been hanging up our towels to dry ever since before we put them in a clothes basket and wash them. The point is that we've always been respectful and we've always been kind, and hurting him would actually hurt me. And I think that he could feel the same way. I should have interviewed him for this one. He probably would have been like, no, and no. Maybe one day, maybe next year, or maybe I'll just ask him. We'll do that soon. Okay. People have told a version of my story that fits them for 11 years now. And I didn't say a word because the people that were living it with me were the most important people at the time. Everyone else, they didn't matter to me. They didn't care for me. They proved that. I lost a lot of family early on. I come from the Deep South, the Bible Belt. There's a lot of racism rampant there in case you didn't already know or you just want to ignore it. And there were family that started making comments because my husband's not white. He is Puerto Rican and his skin is darker than this white girl, that's for sure. And I lost family over that because it had never been more apparent to me that you don't care about me, regardless of who you are. If you saw what I went through and the misery that I was in, we were both miserable. It was just toxic as hell, okay? I can say that confidently. I was miserable. It was misery, okay? Then something that wasn't, something that was kindness and respect, and I felt loved and cherished and calm and at peace and just like me, okay? Because of the way someone looked. The first one was acceptable to you, but the other one was not. I was like, you don't give a crap about me, and I don't need that in my life. So that's it. Chop, chop, baby. I lost all kinds of relationships. I was just over it. I kind of had this dark 30 period there for a couple years where I was just off the grid to any and everyone who knew me, and a lot of relationships just continued to be severed because I completely unapologetically decided to put me first for the first time in my life. And people had opinions about what part of that was right and wrong. I don't care about their opinions. I chose me and my happiness for the first time at 27 years old, okay? And safety and security and love. And if you couldn't understand that, I didn't care. I still don't care about opinions because you weren't there. You don't know me. You don't know my heart. You don't know my mind, my body, my soul. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I still go through. And my relationship is mine to have. How freeing is it to tell your story for the first time? Because you're the only one who's lived it. Even the people right beside me, my husband, who's literally a part of that story. I have never felt like I needed to explain myself. And that's not what this is. It's just about the beginning. It's reflection for me. It's the freeing ability to tell my story for the first time on my terms after 11 years, because my timeline is my own. What I'm doing with myself is my own. Me and my husband are my own. And also a successful 8-year relationship, 10 years that we've been together. It'll be 11 November 15th of 2025, I guess you could say. 11 years coming up that we've been together. Look at me now. Happy, caring, and a kind, loving, respectful relationship that I can model to my children. What more could I ask for except for having that with myself? I want that relationship with myself first, my husband and my kids second. And that's what I'm doing. So happy 8 years to my boo thing. Thanks for rubbing my butt that night. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Rooted and Relentless. If it made you laugh, nod along, or grab that cute little notebook of yours and scribble something down, please hit me with the SSR, subscribe, share, and review, as in leave a review. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram at virtually_Steph Rubio and tell me what you're reading this week. Seriously, I live for a good book moment. Thanks for hanging. Bye.